Over the weekend, had an opportunity to reflect on a story that I heard a long time ago. It was actually, I originally heard the story via Jim Collins in his book Good to Great. I read it, and then later I watched him do a speech on it, so I saw it on a video. The particular story that I'm referring to is called the Stockdale Paradox, and I'm going to do the best I can to try to recall that. If you are interested in hearing the full version of that, I would encourage you to go to Jim Collins. You can YouTube him and look up on his Stockdale Paradox from his Good to Great book. But I'll give it a shot. Admiral Stockdale was an individual who was a full admiral during the Vietnam War. And he was shot down. It was a prisoner of war for many years, as because of his position, he was tortured, beaten on a regular basis. They attempted to get him to denounce America. During this time period, he had said to himself that no matter what, he knew that he was going to get through this, and he knew that this experience that he was having in this prisoner of war camp was going to be a defining moment of his life, that it was going to be a building block in which he was going to continue his legacy once released. Jim Collins, they were working together as professors at a university out in California, was interviewing him and asking him about his experience there, and he asked Admiral Stockdale, who didn't do as well as you? Who was the ones who didn't do as well in the prisoner of war camp? And Stockdale said, well, that's easy. It was the optimist. Similar to Collins, my reaction to that was of surprise. The optimist, I thought, would be the one that for sure would be able to persevere through that. And so Collins asked him why was the optimist the one who struggled? Well, Stockdale responded by saying that the optimist constantly was thinking that they would get out by some arbitrary date. They're for sure going to let us out by Christmas. For sure they'd let us out by Easter. For sure they'll let us out by the 4th of July or whatever date that they would pick, and then focus on that part and set up some kind of bargaining that they would set their hopes on a particular date in the future. And Christmas would come and go, and Easter would come and go, and the summer would come and go, and they would gradually each time get more and more disappointed, and that they would die from a broken heart, a sense of giving up hope, because that time would come and go and they weren't released. And Collins asked him, so how was it that you were able to persevere? He goes, well, there was 2 key ingredients. One was that I knew without a doubt that I was going to prevail, that I was going to be able to get out of there, that this particular experience in my life was going to be a building block in which I was going to then go on and teach and share my experience. But the second part was disciplining myself to the brutal facts, discipline myself to realize that I wasn't going to get out by Christmas, that there wasn't an arbitrary date in the future that I made up in my mind that it was going to end just because I wanted to end, that I had to go through what I had to go through, and each day do what I needed to do to live and persevere through each day. I think of our time period right now as being similar to that. We don't know necessarily when things are going to go back to a new normal. We don't necessarily know when schools are going to return or businesses are going to open, the social distancing be lifted. What I do know is that we will prevail through this. I do know that we will get on the other side of this. I do know that at some point in the future we'll look back on this, and this will be a learning experience. At the same time, we do have to address some very brutal facts, that this illness, this virus, is impacting a lot of people, not only physically, but it's also impacting them mentally as well as economically, that we need to do things on a daily basis to regarding self-care, regarding taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. We need to be able to reach out to our neighbors, to be able to give hope during this time period, but not necessarily a false sense of hope. We will get through this. We do have to address the brutal facts of being able to go through this time period of social distancing and respect the individuals that this is what they do, is understand this illness. Most importantly, though, we need to make sure that we keep that hope alive. We're all in this together, and together we'll get through this.